is Syifa Fauziah Ramadhani, and I recently read a book called When Breaths Become Air by Kalanithi. This book is published by Random House Publishing Group in 2016, and this book has 1057 pages. This book also is one of the amazing autobiography book that I ever read, so I'm very excited to share this book with you guys. This story is about Paul Kalanithi. Paul Kalanithi is an American neurosurgical doctor who indicated with cancer. He is a passionate, brave, smart, and lovable young man, but unfortunately, he must die in his early age in 37 years old. After he survived with his cancer for 3 years. This irony begins when Paul felt he has a back pain and he lost much weight. So he do a CT scan and surprisingly he found 4 tumors in his lungs. So then his junior in his college named Melissa, Dr. Melissa, he suggests Paul to do an X-ray, but Paul thought it is not really useful because he is actually knowledgeable to know that the tumors and the back pain and lost much weight is certainly the diagnosis for cancer. Even though he know that, but he didn't tell everyone about his diagnosis because he is afraid. He is afraid to lose everything that he has achieved in his early age. In this book, Paul also tells us about his teenager life or his childhood life. Back then, he didn't expect it to be a doctor because he more liked to study about literature. Even his father is cardiology doctor. He still more like literature than the science subject. He even took English and biology as his major to his bachelor degree and mastered the English literature. But as the time goes by, he has found out that he is falling in love with neurosurgical. He also met his lovers because neurosurgical. He met his wife named Lucy. Lucy and he take the residency together after their marriage. He as neurosurgical and Lucy as the internist. But unfortunately, taking the residency together make them rarely meet as a couple, and that condition it also makes Paul more afraid about his illness because back then they didn't have a child yet. He is afraid to leave Lucy alone. Meanwhile, Paul is fulfilled of worrying about Lucy and about everything because his illness. Lucy was comfort him. She asked Paul to move out to the Northern California for a vacation. For a week. And then in there, on the third night, he tells something to the host of their vacation, and I will read some of scenes of them. On the third night, I spoke to Mike, our host, to tell him I was going to cut the trip short and head home in the next day. You don't look great, he said. Everything okay? Why don't we grab some scotch and have a sip? I said. In front of his fireplace, I said, Mike, I think I have cancer. And not the good kind either. It was the first time I said it loud. Okay, you see, I take it this is not some elaborate practical joke. No, he paused. I don't know exactly what to ask. Well, I suppose first I should say that I don't know for a fact that I have a cancer. I'm just pretty sure about it. A lot of the symptoms point that way. I'm going to home tomorrow and sort it out. Hopefully, I'm warm. Mike offered to take my lunch and send it home by mail, so I wouldn't have to carry it with me. He drove me to the airport early in the next morning, and 6 hours later, I land in San Francisco. My phone rang as I stepped off the plane. It was my primary care doctor calling with the chest x-ray result. My lungs, instead of being clear, looked blurry, as if the camera aperture had been left open too long. The doctor said she wasn't sure what that meant. She likely knew what it meant. I knew. After that vacation, he told the truth untold to Lucy, to his wife, that he is diagnosed with cancer, that his life is no longer. So what happened to Paul in the rest of his life? Is he find his happiness? Or are his choices to be a doctor is the right choices? To bridge that gap, I invite you all to read this book by yourself. But I personally give 4 stars to the rank of this book because first, Paul just write two chapters with prologue and epilogue to emphasize his amazing moment before he dies, and it makes the reader who has a limited time can read it freely. The things that lead me to give 4 stars because I think the vocabulary is unfamiliar to me, and the grammatical is hard to read, but it's still possible to read, but I need more time to read it. I really recommend this book because it has a big moral value about the importance of time, that how the time is, that it's actually that short, and in that short time we shouldn't just look up, but we should to look around also. But I don't make a goosebump by talking about die. It's just a reminder for all of us that someday we all can feel it by ourselves, right? So just preparing ourselves by read this book freely. Thank you. Goodbye.